Hi, I'm Miguel Castro and welcome back to my channel. Now, let me show you the rest of the tools and materials we need to start a paper cutting project. Here are the cutter knives I prefer and still using for my works. But first, I want to tell you about the very first knife I used, the surgical knife.
This is surgical knife number 7. It is rounded in shape with a thin neck towards the top. This handle is designed to hold surgical blade numbers 10 to 15C. To attach the blade, place the rounded tip of the knife into the mid part of the hole of the blade. Slide the blade and the knife tip together until you feel a small click when the two are snugged well together. To remove, push the bottom part of the blade upward from the knife and slowly pulling the blade out of the knife. Dispose the blade properly.
Because I was really enjoying discovering more images as I cut, I didn't really notice how much damage using this very thin knife on my hand. I grew big calluses on my fingers and they got so sore, especially in the morning. I realized that it was the way I was holding the knife that causes the pain, so I wrapped the knife body with cloth and tape for more grip. Now I know what you're saying, why didn't I just buy a proper knife? Well, I wanted to experience everything from the basics to the advanced, and so I tried other cutters.
One of the more reliable cutters I have used in terms of durability is the NT cutter for pre-snapped blades. Its body has some grid on the barrel for a sturdy grip, the tensioner at the top, and has two directional gripper. Notice that the size of the gripper is made only for a pre-snapped blade. To insert a blade, just simply turn the tensioner to loosen the blade gripper, place your blade, and tighten back the tensioner. I only hope NT would make this cutter type with an ergonomical rubberized body grip, because this one always rolls on my work table and I cannot use it on a slanted drawing table. My favorite of all cutters, and the only cutter I still use after many years, is a cutter we purchased at an outlet called Tchibo in Germany. It is very durable, with a rubberized ergonomical grip body that really gives comfort and security to my hand. Plus, I can place it anywhere without worrying it to roll and fall off like my other cutters. The tensioner is covered as well with rubber. To place a blade, adjust the tensioner and place the blade in the two-directional gripper and tighten. This cutter holds all types of blade without any problem. The rubber covering at the tensioner is usually the first to deteriorate and eventually almost falling off. But that was after a very long time of use. And I didn't really want to let it go, so I just wrapped it up with an electrical tape and I still use it to this day. I got this swivel knife that uses the pre-snapped blades only. It's supposed to be for easier cutting on curves, and I feel like it's based on the swivel knife used in leather designing, because both are used vertically. I haven't gotten used to it, but it is promising. This is one of the cheapest I found. It was interesting because it has a wider 4-directional blade gripper, and the tensioner is located at the base. My issue about this is that whenever I change blades, I seem to manage to disassemble the whole mechanism all the time, causing the gripper and the tensioner to fall out, eating my time putting them back. I've seen other artists loving this, so I guess it's just a matter of getting used to. This hobby knife that I used for a while has a better sized barrel body for easier gripping. The tensioner is at the top, But the two-directional blade gripper is made of hard plastic and did not lasted too long because the gripper gets getting loose. Pre-snapped blades do not work well with this knife. Then I tried the thinner pen-like version of it, tensioner at the top with 4-way directional metal blade gripper, but because it's too thin, I opted for other knives. I saw this in a local store which looks like my favorite knife, but with plastic ergonomic grip body, tensioner at the top, 4-way directional blade gripper. But the plastic body is just not working. It's slippery, and when I tighten the tensioner a bit harder than I usually do for better grip of the blade, the tensioner snapped off from the plastic body. But then again, I'm a heavy knife user, so this might work with other artists.
A quick option when I forget to bring my cutters and blades are the disposable surgical knives. In times when I get a sudden urge to get creative and cut, and I didn't have anything to use, I just buy a disposable scalpel. It is usually sold and packed individually where both the handle and the blade built in together. But don't expect too much from it because it gets blunt very easily and it's not very cheap.
One of the popular blades among cutters is the X-Acto blade number 11. It's carbon steel and can stand to extreme pressure. Its blade is thicker that some cutters sharpens them to extend its use. And because it's stronger, I usually use it for cutting heavier or thicker paper or card stocks. Other carbon steel blades are the surgical blades. This blade is number 15. I use this particular blade only when my hand and wrist has gone tired and sore from cutting. And with its rounded tip, I can cut with it in an almost vertical position rather than the usual 30 to 45 degree angle cutting position. It is packed individually and sold in boxes of 100s. It is a way cheaper than the X-Acto, but in my experience, it gets dull easier. Among the surgical blades, number 11 is the most I have gotten used to. Unlike X-Acto, this blade is thinner. This has become my favorite because its flexibility gives me easier maneuver on complicated and intricate cuttings. However, one has to be very well experienced working with this because it has a tendency of breaking and snapping in heavy pressure. Cutter also have spare blades used for utility knives, which all of us are familiar with. It has 8 segments per blade bar and made of thick carbon steel. Each segment are the ones usually used in a specific kind of hobby knife because the blade gripper is small. But this can be quite dangerous as it can sometimes fly off and hit you in the face or somebody else when snapping the blade off the blade bar. I have them mainly because it serves 2 purposes, for my utility knife and for emergency use for art cutting in case I run out of it. And if you don't feel like snapping off blades, we have the pre-snapped Cutter blades. This one has a 30-degree angle blade and it comes in packs of 40. It is almost as thick as the X-Acto, and since it is shorter, the part of the blade exposed from the knife is shorter, giving the cutter a more secure feel even with heavier pressure. Another pre-snapped Cutter is the 45-degree angled blade. I find not much difference in its use, but at least there are other options. Other tools and materials we would be needing are pencils, which I recommend, so it is easier to correct and erase mistakes rather than using a pen or a marker. I use utility knives for cutting paper to the desired size because it is safer and steadier to use. Erasers for correcting drawings. I use rulers for trimming papers to certain sizes. I have a short and a meter-long metal ruler because I work on larger-sized artworks. I prefer metal because the sharp knife can easily cut a plastic or rubber ruler as I glide the blade on its edge. And glue for mounting the work on a background. I either use a clear acid-free glue with built-in applicator to control the amount of glue on the paper, or a white wood glue, also acid-free and water-based, with a nozzle for easy application.
So I hope this video is helpful to you. Go and try to get these tools and materials, and let's start cutting in my next video, basic paper cutting. And please remember, like and subscribe. See you next time.